Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to the episode 3 of Exercise Stories Series 1. So far what we have seen is how the brain gives the impulses to the muscles for them to contract and what happens in the muscles that makes them to do the contraction. Okay, so today what we are going to see is how these contractions are going to help us move, which in a way we do the exercises to strengthen those specific type of contractions or movements based on our need. We had seen earlier the muscles get the impulses from the nerves to get the necessary changes happening in them to bring about a contraction, which is nothing but the formation of bridges between the thin fibers and the thick fibers. The thick fibers in a way pulls the thin fibers closer to each other, making a contraction. Okay, now keeping this as in one side. So basically we do movements either to hold a part or to hold a thing or to move a thing or to move from one place to other. It says either there is a constant load happening in one particular movement or the load keeps changing, and in one place either the length remains the same or the distance, and whereas the distance is moving in the other. Okay, so to make it in more short, for example, I am trying to hold a weight of an object. So imagine this is slightly lesser in weight, but imagine this is about 250 grams. Okay, I am holding a 250 grams in place and I am going to add another 250 grams to it. Okay, I am going to add and I am going to add and I am going to add and I am going to add again. Okay, so even though the weight keep is increasing or the load put on it is increasing, I am maintaining the same length and I am not changing the length of the muscle. But keep in mind, my muscles has to keep it in contraction so as not to let my hand down, so as my arm doesn't move. Okay, so even at this stage also my muscle keeps working, or in other words my muscle keeps contracting to maintain the load. Okay, so this type of activity wherein even though the load is changing, but my length of the muscle from its original position when the initial load is kept hasn't changed. Okay, so these type of contractions or movement is what we call it as the isometric contraction, or the exercises which involves doing these type of holding particular object or pushing a particular object, or when we do the normal planks. These kind of exercises comes under the category called as isometric exercises. So the name itself it is that the metric, the length remains the same, okay, throughout the contraction or throughout the exercise. So this is one. So the second part is, imagine I am keeping the same load, okay, but I am shifting the load from one hand to the other hand and the other hand again to here. Okay, so here the load remains the same, whereas the muscle needs to contract to shorten so that I transfer the load from one place to other. So these are called as isotonic exercises. So here the load remains the same, whereas I move the part from one place to other where the distance is also moved. My length of the muscle fibers also needs to contract while taking it from here to here, and while doing the reverse action while I take it back. So these type of exercises comes under category isotonic. Isotonic again can be categorized into concentric and eccentric. Nothing but when I take the object or the load from place A to B, this is considered as concentric, and when I do the reverse action, it is called as eccentric. Okay, in both the types of contractions, the muscle fibers are in a contracted state so that to maintain the load. Okay, so to make it in short, so there are two types of contractions or exercises we use in our everyday activities or as separately as a workout. So one is the isometric, where the length of the muscle remains same and the load keeps adding up to it. Okay, so this is also a type of contraction. Even though the muscle is in a resting position or in a starting position, the muscle keeps contracting so as to maintain the load how much ever it is being added up onto it based on the individual's capacity or capabilities. Okay, the second type what we discussed is the isotonic, whereas the load remains the same but the muscle length changes so as to move the part. Okay, so you can also imagine certain type of exercises what you do. Okay, so there are some exercises which you do in the static positions or in what called as isometric. There are some exercises which you do in dynamic positions, which comes under the category called as isotonic. Okay, so to give it a more easier understanding, a better example, majority of the yoga poses, okay, where you maintain a particular pose after a period of long time. It can be a child pose or it can be a warrior pose. When you are trying to maintain or hold it for a longer period of time, those comes under the category of isometric. Okay, where the muscle length remains in the same position, but you maintain the load of your body against the gravity. Okay, now comes the isotonic. Okay, wherein we are lifting a dumbbell. For example, it's a 5 kg dumbbell. We are trying to lift it either with one biceps or two biceps. We are doing the activity. So this comes under the category called as the isotonic exercises. Okay, so in other ways we do these type of exercises to build up certain group of muscles. So now when we are starting to compare this with the previous episode, okay, again the isometrics, as we discussed in the previous episode's example, are some things which are holding in, which are necessary for us to hold us for a long time. For example, the muscles of the legs or the muscles of the back when we are sitting for a long time or when we are standing for a long time. So obviously these type of muscles comes under the category called as the slow twitch muscle fibers, which gets majority of the energy from the aerobic system. And whereas when we are trying to lift weights, okay, so this system needs quick amount of energy. For me to put in, pull out, okay, or lift up, these kind of things require a quicker type of energy, which comes under the category called as fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, so to work out majority of the fast twitch muscle fibers, to bring about a sudden burst of action or a quick type of activities, majority of the exercises which involves quick workouts like concentric and eccentric movements bring support and increase in the particular type of exercise, what we call it as the isotonic exercises. Okay, whereas when you want to build up your slow twitch muscle fibers so as to improve your long lasting abilities, so most of you do isometric type of exercises. Those comes under the category called as isometric exercises. Okay, so as one builds the strength in the muscles, the other group builds the endurance in the muscles. As I said before, both the group of muscle fibers are likely to present in one particular muscle. For example, if you take the biceps can have both the quantities of slow twitch and the fast twitch muscle fibers, wherein based on the training or based on the use, the fiber content, for example, if the biceps has been trained to lift a lot of strength activities, or as an easy example, when the upper limbs are used to do a lot of strength training activities, those turn into fast twitch muscle fibers. Whereas our back muscles or leg muscles, when we train it to do a long lasting and endurance type of activities, turn into slow twitch muscle fibers based on the activities what we give. Okay, so hope it is more clearer now how the muscle fiber category differs in their contraction based on whatever the energy they receive based on the aerobic and anaerobic system, so that the muscle fibers turn into slow twitch and the fast twitch. But both the group of muscle fibers are also present in majority of the muscle groups. Through training, they can be improved or lessened in the quantity based on the need, and how specific type of exercises what we discussed today to bring about the contraction either at the isometric level or the isotonic level to either build in the strength or build in the endurance also has been seen. Okay, so hope it is clear, and I'll see you at the last episode, episode 5 tomorrow. And don't forget, so today we have the exercise trivia also. Last time we had seen pain trivia 1, okay, video where we'll be asking a simple question, and I hope many of you can answer it better than next time. Okay, and do subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.